Raider Nation, what's going on? Coming up here on today's show, we're going to get into the latest around Geno Smith, and I'm going to give you an updated contract projection because since Sunday, some stuff has changed, and, well, some of the numbers have changed as well. Also, the Raiders had a linebacker visit them yesterday. We're going to break down who that is, what it means if they wanted to sign him, and some other linebacker targets that they could potentially be looking at in free agency. If you didn't join our live show on Tuesday, this photo was literally just posted or on George Pickens' Instagram. And if you don't have an Instagram, you can always hit me up at Mitchell Renz 365. As you can see, it is a picture of Pickens with Tom Brady in silver and black. Let me be very clear. I have absolutely positively no interest whatsoever in trading for George Pickens. You could even offer him for a 7th-round pick. I'm not interested because this guy is literally the biggest diva in the NFL. How can you move on from one diva in Devontae and get an even bigger one, a guy that gives up on his team all the flipping time on the Pittsburgh Steelers? But it's not only just the trade. You would have to pay him, and I'm not paying George Pickens $20 million a year for the next long haul. If you're going to be a Raiders organization that preaches the importance of bringing in guys that love football and guys that are like, not me guys, George Pickens is the absolute opposite of a me guy. And I want no part of him with the silver and black. Let's get in now to the latest, though, around Geno Smith. He was traded to the Las Vegas Raiders on March 7th. And if you didn't know, $16 million became available to Geno on March 16th. The Raiders have been working on a long-term deal extension with their new QB1, and it was reported last week by Tashawn Reed that it was going to happen last week, but this has taken a little bit longer than expected. When it comes to Geno, the press conference is going to happen. When the Raiders end up getting this long-term deal done with Geno, that's when the press conference will ultimately end up going down here for the silver and black. But I have given out a bunch of different contract projections here on Geno, and I've been pretty spot on with some of my other ones through free agency. So what I wanted to try to do is just give you a little bit of an update of where we are right now on Geno and an updated look at a contract. We know for a fact that he's looking for $40 to $45 million a year. One of the reasons why Geno actually forced his way out of Seattle, which is kind of interesting. It's been reported that Geno was a big factor in why he tried to get out of Seattle. This wasn't just the Seahawks dumping him. This was Geno wanted to get out of Seattle because they weren't willing to pay him, and their rumors were they were looking to give him $35 million. That wasn't enough for Geno. And I would say this, you got to expect a 2 to 3 year extension, which is essentially tying Geno to Pete Carroll for 3 to 4 years. So coming up here, I'm going to be breaking down my Geno Smith contract projection, and it is a lot different compared to what I was talking about before because now the Geno contract situation is a little bit different. But I also got to say this, you got to learn from history. And when you look at the Baker Mayfield deal, when you look at the Geno Smith pass deal with Pete Carroll, I think you're going to see why the numbers I came up with are the way that they are. Here's one promise, though. If the Raiders end up getting a Geno Smith extension done, I will be live. Make sure those notifications are turned on. Make sure that you're subscribed to the Raiders Report because I know this. Anytime that there's a controversial breaking news story, this show gets wild, and I think that this show is going to get wild because there's still a lot of people out there that are not sold on Geno Smith, which I get it. Not everybody's going to watch tape, but I will say if you watch some Geno Smith tape, you're going to feel a lot better around him. I do got to give a shout-out to the Noti Gang. These are the people that I know for a fact are subbed. These are the people that I know a fact are going to be there live because every time I drop a video, these are the first 5 people that pulled up on the last show that I did. So Matt, Tross, Sean, Ricky, Clement, appreciate all y'all pulling up to the Raiders Report. It does mean a lot to me that you're a part of the Noti Gang. So let's first go to the 2-year contract extension idea that I have for Geno Smith. And if you're wondering, 2 years, this ties Geno to Pete Carroll for the next 3 years. So it's a 2-year extension on top of the 1 year that he already has. I'm looking at 2 years, $90 million with $48 million guaranteed. That comes out to $45 million per year, which then makes his new deal 3 years, $121 million. Again, he's 31 on the cap for this season, and that comes out to about an average of $40 million per year. This is the type of move that I could see the Raiders doing, and quite frankly, I would say is almost maybe the most likely version of the deal that I could see going down for Geno. The guaranteed money has gone down compared to what I originally thought because of them not getting that deal done before Sunday, March 16th. So the way that I think that this number could be broken down, and I am always trying to learn from past history, past contracts, because it's always a little bit different. It's kind of hard to digest. But back in 2023, Geno Smith signed a contract with Pete Carroll. It was 3 years, $75 million, and that's how it was. The cap ended up being broken down. It was 10.1, 26.4, 31.0. However, though, 17.4 million of that, which also was a roster bonus, just like Geno's 16 million roster bonus, was converted into cash to save the Seattle Seahawks some money on that cap hit. Let's also talk about Baker Mayfield, because John Spytek was a part of that regime when they went out and they signed Baker to a 3-year, $100 million deal in 2024. Here's how his numbers ended up being broken down. Low cap, but that cash at 25.6 mil, which really helped ultimately lower that value for Baker Mayfield. Now that I'm looking at this is 2024, 6.9. 2025 is 38.3. 2026 is 45.8. That's how the Baker Mayfield numbers are down. That's on me. So how would I potentially look at a Geno deal? If he's signing that 2-year, $90 million deal, let's say he ends up getting it done in 2025, I think that you could see the 2025 cap hit at $14.8 million, which would be his base salary. They would convert that $16 million into a signing bonus, which wouldn't count against the cap. Then you're looking at about $40 million in 2026, and then you're looking at about $50 million in 2027. The important number here, though, is you use this number to get rid of a lot of those guarantees. Reminder again, $48 million. So that way you would really only be on the hook for a small amount of money, essentially like the way the Geno Smith contract ended up going down this past offseason. So I want you guys to go fill in the blank here. It's what the Raiders Report is all about. The Raiders will extend Geno Smith for blank years. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, which means you're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. The Raiders will extend Geno Smith for blank years. The numbers are 2 or 3. And I say that because of the way Pete Carroll's contract is ultimately structured. Friendly reminder, when the Raiders hired Carroll, they gave him a 3-year deal with a 4th-year option. Because he already has 1 year for Geno, 2 years, 3 with Carroll. 3-year extension, you give him kind of that out option on that 4th, just like Pete Carroll has. But let's talk about that 3-year extension idea. And this ties Carroll together and Geno with that potential 4th-year option. It would be 3 years, $125 million, and I could see the Raiders giving him just a little bit more money guaranteed. The way that I thought about the guaranteed money, it is about, so when you look at Geno's first contract that he got with Pete Carroll, the percentage of that was guaranteed was about 53% of that contract was guaranteed. When you look at the Baker Mayfield deal, very similar of about 53% of that contract was guaranteed. And I could see the Raiders going about it and doing it in the exact same way. So that final deal would be 4 years, whatever 125 plus 31 would be. The math didn't quite come out to be accurate, so again, that's on me. So you're looking at 3 years, $125 million with $53 million guaranteed, coming out to about $41.6 million per year for Geno Smith. Ultimately, I think a 2 or a 3-year deal does end up going down for the Raiders, but you got to look at it not so much as we're paying Geno that full 3 to 4. By going out and giving a 2 to 3 year extension, it's really just a 2 at most 3-year contract. At least that's how I would want the nation to look at it. Coming up next year, though, let's talk about a visit that the Raiders had, a linebacker, and it's kind of an interesting one that I don't feel like I did a fully great job of breaking down the importance / what needs to happen if the Raiders wanted to go add the player that we're about to break down. Before I get into it, though, huge shout out to our sponsor here, Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure that you use code CLNS. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And since today is Tuesday, they also offer Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly. When you play $5, you don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus It's guaranteed. I don't know about y'all, but I cannot wait for March Madness. And I love being able to go out and watch some basketball games. And if anybody also wants to, I always say my favorite time of the year is obviously football season. But this is my also one of the best times of the year, watching all these different college basketball games. And you can also use Prize Picks for a lot of these games that are about to happen in March Madness. So you can go more, you can go less. I'm telling you this, every game that I'm planning on sitting down and watching, I will have a Prize Picks lineup in. And if you want to be able to run your game all season long on Prize Picks, or at least in the month of March, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Just make sure that you use code CLNS. All right, let's talk about Christian Elliss. He had a meeting with the Raiders yesterday. And for those that do not know, this is not just as simple as the Raiders can sign Christian Elliss. Because he was given a first refusal tender by the Patriots, the Raiders would essentially have to match a $3.3 million offer. If the Raiders put out an offer to Christian Elliss at $3.3 million, then the New England Patriots have 72 hours to match it. They would have 3 days in order to do it. I'll admit, typically when a player like Elliss does get, the first refusal tender, typically teams don't let that player go. And I also don't think that the Patriots thought that anybody was going to bring Elliss in on a visit. And sometimes that can backfire a little bit. But Elliss, he is a good inside linebacker. And for a Raiders team that needs to be able to go out and find another linebacker to pair next to with Landon Roberts, I can understand the reason why they're looking this route. He did start 5 games last season for the New England Patriots, and he's a solid coverage, and he's good in special teams. You can say what you want about him, and I'm not going to sit up here and say, we got to go out and start Christian Elliss. It's a project player, but if you believe in your coaching staff, and if you believe in somebody that has shown growth, and his dad also has played some years in the NFL, which does matter to this organization, maybe you get a little bit more out of him. Last year, according to PFF, a 72.6 overall grade. This was in about 541 snaps, I believe, but he also had 80 tackles, 1.5 sacks, coming off the best year that he's had as a pro. And one of the reasons why I am intrigued by Elliss is because I am a sucker for somebody that always shows improvement. And when you can get better and better and you show that you're coachable, that is a big stamp of approval to me, especially on defense, because I know how good our defensive staff is. I know how good Patrick Graham is. I know how solid we are. And then when you add that with somebody that is coachable and has a good motor, on top of the fact that they come from a NFL football family background, all of those things are important. The question is, though, are you going to give Christian Elliss at least $3.3 million, right? Because that's the problem. You could offer him 3.3. New England could say, well, not so fast, sweetheart. And then you could be in a bidding war for Christian Elliss, and that's not necessarily the game that I want to be in. So here's your opportunity to call the shots. Be John Spytek here for a second. Should the Raiders sign Elliss? I want you to type sign, or if you're like, nah, man, I want you to type pass. I will say this. If you are somebody that types pass, at least give me another name that you would throw out there, for the simple fact of, if they're looking at Elliss, that also means that they're probably looking at some other linebacker candidates. My answer is going to be coming up here, though, in just a moment. I would say you could go out and sign him if it costs less than $4 million. If we start getting into this game where it's going to be higher than that, I'm not really on board with it. I'll also say that I think he's actually a good pairing with Landon Roberts. Roberts is a downhill thumper. Elliss is a very fast sideline-to-sideline linebacker. I believe he ended up running in the 4.5s at the combine. But because he's an intelligent player and because he's getting better and better and better, I do think it would be intriguing. I'll also tell you this. He's better than Amari Burney. He's better than Amari Gaynor. He's better than Smith. He's better than Tommy Eichenberg. And he's better than Kenai Malga. And also better than Jackson Mitchell. Y'all know that I like Tommy Eichenberg, and he is a good project player, but I don't think that he's ready to go right away. And putting him next to a Landon, that's really going to expose yourself in a coverage game, especially at linebacker. So because of that, I would just keep in mind other linebackers that the Raiders could target, which, if it was up to me right now, I would say one of the top guys that I would keep an eye on is E.J. Speed. Had a really solid year last season, 142 tackles. I don't know what the price tag is going to be necessarily on a linebacker like Speed. Maybe you want to go out and get a Kaiser White. That could be another linebacker to keep in mind. I would say that those are the top two LBs that the Raiders should target to pair with the Landon Roberts that's still out there on the free agent market. Isaiah Simmons is another really big project where I could sit up here and go, if you're going to take a risk on Christian Elliss, why not also take a risk on Isaiah Simmons, a linebacker safety hybrid with all the athletic ability in the world? If you want to go with somebody that you know might not be a true linebacker one still, and I say still, but you know he has a good relationship with the Landon Roberts. Jerome Baker could be another name that I'll at least throw out there as a linebacker option. And then Chaz Surratt. Chaz Surratt kind of fits this exact same bill as Elliss because doesn't have a lot of playing time. He had to step up last season due to injury for the New York Jets. But overall, if the Raiders are looking at Christian Elliss, to me, and I think to everybody else, that little light bulb's got to go off in your head and go, well, that means that they're also looking at some other potential linebackers. And obviously, if the Raiders go out and they add anybody else in free agency, we will make a video on it. Now, reminder to all of y'all, I am on social media at Mitchell Renz 365. We have had over 3,000 new subscribers probably in the last 28 days. And I get that not all of y'all maybe are new to the or like not know to the show, know exactly what we do here. We provide free Raiders content every single day on social media, here on YouTube. And if you want to rock with the #1 Raiders channel in the world, we're getting close to 190,000 subs, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I can't wait to be able to celebrate with all of y'all. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be exactly when the Geno Smith deal ends up going down. Because I'll promise you this, when the Geno Smith deal ends up going down, it's going to get rowdy here on the Raiders Report.